Hey guys, HMK here once again with a brand new Legend of Zelda video, but this is going to be a different video series. It's going to be called What is Zelda? And for each part, this being part 1, I'm going to take a different YouTuber that doesn't know much about the Legend of Zelda series, and then he or she is going to ask me questions and I'm going to answer them in an attempt to get them on the Zelda side to see if they're hyped for the game. And for this first episode, I've got a very good friend of mine, a Keykeeper. He's all about Kingdom Hearts, Halo, shooters, all that good jazz. Everyone, please welcome Cynical from The Gamers Joint.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Cynical from TGJ, or The Gamers Joint, and I'm very honored to be here today with HMK. I, for one, am someone who knows little to nothing about Zelda. I know of it as, of course, you know, HMK. I do still watch his videos. I'm still a very big fan of him. And I know he's all about that Zelda. I do want to get into the series in the near future. It looks very, very interesting, lots of lore. So I'm happy to be here today and ask some questions coming from a noob. So let's get on with it.
Alright, and as a disclaimer, in this video, it's gonna be very, very approachable. It's gonna be very, very casual. In some ways, if he asks me a question about lore, I might say in the most professional way. But most of the time in this video, I'm gonna use layman's terms, so it's gonna be very, very approachable and very, very easy to understand for everyone watching and everyone viewing at home. So let's get into it, man. Hit me with your best shot. Let's go.
Alright, so question number 1: what was Link's purpose in the very first Zelda game?
Okay, so alright, that's a good one. Nice. Alright, so Link's purpose in the game, literally, this guy came out of nowhere. Like, literally, he was the chosen one who came to the land of Hyrule while the land was in turmoil. Now, the reason why the land was in turmoil is because Zelda was captured by Ganon, and Ganon is trying to complete the Triforce of Wisdom, which was broken up by Zelda. Ganon, at this point, who is the big bad guy, has the Triforce of Power, and he has Zelda captured, and he was trying to get the Triforce of Wisdom from Zelda. And now she broke it off into 8 pieces, and Link's job, he literally came out of nowhere, was found by Impa, who is Zelda's caretaker. So Impa's caretaker, Zelda's caretaker, Impa, found Link and told him, hey listen, you gotta do all this stuff, and sent him on the quest to go find the 8 pieces broken up, the Triforce of Wisdom, to go stop Ganon with his Triforce of Power. So that was basically his role. He literally came out of nowhere, he rose to the occasion to save the land.
Okay, so that it sort of, I can sort of relate to that, like, I suppose, because you know a lot about Kingdom Hearts, sort of like Sora came out of nowhere sort of thing. Well, I mean, like, the whole heart thing, you know, that happened, but, I don't know, it's sort of, I don't know, I find that sort of relatable, but yeah, that is, very, very interesting. So, Ganon, that's another question I'd like to ask.
Alright.
I have heard of, Ganondorf, but who's Ganon? Is he, like, the very first form of the Ganons or something like that, or? Okay,
so that's also a very, very cool question. I'm gonna get a little bit in depth about that. Now, with the Zelda timeline, The Legend of Zelda is not the first game in the chronology, alright? The very first game in the chronology is a game called The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. In that game, it happens very, very early in the timeline, and there was this beast, this giant demon king named Demise, alright? And long story short, you know, he's the guy you have to beat. Link, go after him, kills him, but he puts a curse called the Hate of the Demon, and he latches it onto Link and Zelda of that timeline and says that his hate will be reborn in every generation, in every cycle, and they will always try to go and kill Link and Zelda and forever tie them in a blood-soaked sea of darkness for eternity. So that's Demise. Yeah, exactly, no, but that's Demise. Now, later on in the series, there's a game called Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, which is still very early in the chronology. Now, this is where Ganondorf comes into play. Ganondorf is the reincarnation of Demise's hate. Now, Ganondorf is the first ever Ganon thing, right? Okay. He is a human from the Gerudo tribe who is dead set on completing and capturing the Triforce to take over Hyrule and therefore the world. Now, Ganondorf, when he gets all of the 3 pieces of the Triforce, or if he just gets the Triforce of Power, he transforms into this giant demon pig beast named Ganon. So Ganondorf is basically the human form that came first, and then Ganon is basically his ultimate monstrous form that, you know, he turns into in that game or in other games, but in most games he just starts off as Ganon. But basically Ganon is the ultimate form of the human Ganondorf.
Wow, man. Like, even from just, like, listening to both of those questions, I can tell that there's just so much rich lore in this game.
Oh, yeah.
Which is super exciting. But anyway, how many Zelda games are in the franchise?
In the franchise, currently, there is 17 games. Now, there is 17 games, so there's a lot to take in. And there is a lot, but I will run them down in the
chronological order. That would be cool.
Yeah, I'm not gonna release them in the order that they're in the order they're released because they're all over the place. Now, the first game in the chronological order is Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword. After that game, the Minish Cap takes place. Then after that game, the Legend of Zelda: Four Swords. After that game is the Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Now, this is where it gets interesting. At the end of Ocarina of Time, and for the story, I'm not going to be spoiler for you if you want to get into it. Basically, time travel happens in that game, and at the end of the game, that has huge implications. More so to the fact that after that game, 3 different timelines is plausible. So basically, after Ocarina of Time, the timeline splits happens. Like everyone who knows Zelda knows about this timeline split. Now, there's 3 different timelines. The timeline where Link fails and dies against Ganon, the child timeline, and the adult timeline. Now, in the child timeline, the Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask happens, then the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess happens, and after Twilight Princess, the Legend of Zelda Four Swords Adventures happens. In the adult timeline, it's the Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker. After that is the Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass, and then after that game is the Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks. Now, if Link were to die and fail, then the games happen in this order: the Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, the Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons, which are 2 games that, link together, kind of like how Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue work.
Oh, okay. They came out on the GBA, didn't they?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
And then after that game is the Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, and then after that game, the Legend of Zelda A Link Between Worlds, which is the most recent one that came out for the 3DS. And then after that game, the first Legend of Zelda takes place, and then after that game is Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link.
Wow, man. Holy crap.
Yeah, it's a lot of games.
There's many games. See,
and another one is coming out next year, too.
Yeah, the one for Wii U.
Oh, yeah.
That's something that I loved so much about Kingdom Hearts. There's just, like, you can go from game to game to game, learning and studying about the story and how it just builds on itself throughout going through the series. And, I thought Kingdom Hearts was a wide open sort of series with lots of different installments. But, holy crap, Zelda, man.
Right.
It's just...
It kind of blows that out of the water with the number of games.
I know.
But one thing I have to explain, like if you want to get into Zelda, each Zelda game kind of works a little bit like I want to say they work like pseudo Final Fantasy games, where each game is its own story, but all of the games connect to each other. Physically, like Final Fantasy games, like Final Fantasy 6 and 7, they have nothing to do with each other, different universes, whatever. But this is all in the same universe. But each of them have their own self-contained story. It doesn't work like Kingdom Hearts, where it's like the game after the game after the game, same people, it's one big story. Each game, it's its own story, but each story connects and makes a grand legend, hence the Legend of Zelda.
Oh, okay. Cool. Alright, so because of the fact that I've heard that Majora's Mask is one of the best sort of Zelda games in the series, I want to know, who is the Skull Kid?
Okay, alright, dang. These are really cool questions. I'm really enjoying this so far. Okay, so in Ocarina of Time, which takes place before Majora's Mask, there was this little NPC / enemy named the Skull Kid. Now, the Skull Kid, what is a Skull Kid? There are multiple Skull Kids, but there is one that is special, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Now, there's this area within the forest that is called, Jesus Christ, the Kokiri Forest. Now, that's where you are... quotation marks. That's where you start the game. That's where you are born, but you find out that's not the truth. But anyways, that's where you start your adventure as Link, the Kokiri Forest. And within that forest, there's this area called the Lost Woods. Now, this Lost Woods is a very, very magical, but very, very, very dangerous place. Now, if a child were to get lost in the Lost Woods, they become a Skull Kid, which is basically a wooden puppet-like thing that has a beak, and they're made of straw. It's basically like a scarecrow askew type thing, right? They become a Skull Kid. Now, if an adult gets lost in the Lost Woods, they become what is called a Stalfos, which is a enemy, a dark, undead, skeletal enemy that usually fights with a sword. and a shield, and it's basically in wrapped up armor, but it's a skeleton. It's a very scary looking thing, but basically it's like a skeletal knight. That's what an adult happens, and that's what happens to an adult who gets lost in the Lost Woods. Now, the Skull Kid in Ocarina of Time, by nature, Skull Kids are very mischievous. They're pranksters by nature, right? And in that game, as a child, you befriend a Skull Kid, but if you go back to the forest as an adult, they'll attack you because they don't like adults. Now, there was this one Skull Kid in Ocarina of Time which you sold a mask to in order to make him look tough. It was a skull-looking mask, so that basically shows that he likes masks, right? In the next game, Majora's Mask, that very same Skull Kid, the prankster that he is, he goes around the Lost Woods or whatever, and then he comes across this guy named the Happy Mask Salesman. And then he starts like going through his shit to steal because he's like, yay, pranks, whatever. He finds the Majora's Mask and he puts it on. Now, by nature, this kid, not only is he a prankster, this specific Skull Kid was very lonely because he lost his friends like before the game happened, and he was also like mistreated by the great fairies of the land. Now, putting on this mask fills him up with great, powerful, evil intent that transforms his prankster-like tendencies into full-blown like attacks on the land. Like he's the reason why that giant, scary-looking moon is falling onto the earth. He thinks of that as a prank that is gonna affect everyone, but that moon is gonna kill everyone if it hits the earth. But he still thinks it's some sort of prank because that's his nature. But basically, the Majora's Mask twists that to a very, very dangerous level, and that's who the Skull Kid is.
Wow, man, like that's next level pranksters right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question: who is Navi and why is she important?
Okay, Navi the fairy. Navi is short for navigate. Once again, in Ocarina of Time, Link, I'm just going to kind of spoil this for you, but Link in Ocarina of Time, he is raised as a Kokiri, which is a race of little elf-like children that never grow old. And each Kokiri has a guardian fairy. You know, that's basically how it works. And the creator of the series, Shigeru Miyamoto, kind of got that dimension from Peter Pan and Tinkerbell. You know, he used that same dimension for each of those people. Now, Link is not a Kokiri. He's actually a Hylian, which is, you know, the kind of staple race of the series, like a regular human or whatever. And that's why he didn't have a fairy. Now, the Great Deku Tree, which is a giant grandfather-looking tree who basically acts as the father of all the Kokiris, he senses that dark times are coming. He then summons the fairy Navi, which is just one of the fairies that was like, you know, rolling around or whatever. He's like, Navi, it's time for this child of destiny to go out and fulfill his destiny. So I want you to go get him and bring him to me. So Navi goes, finds Link, bring him to the Great Deku Tree, and then the Great Deku Tree tells him of his destiny and partners them up to go off on that destiny. Now, Navi is so important is because Navi helps you with solving puzzles, helps you with, you know, she's basically the tutorial guide of the game, and she also gives you hints on defeating enemies. Not only that, Link, he didn't have much experience with targeting enemies, so not Link, but Navi also worked as your L targeting guide. The reason why this is because Ocarina of Time was the first 3D Zelda game, period, and they kind of needed a reason to, you know, why Link is able to target enemies specifically. Now, Z targeting, L targeting, whatever, Z targeting was a huge deal in gaming. That is like one of the fundamentals in gaming right now. The whole lock-on system that you even see in Kingdom Hearts, Devil May Cry, everything was because of Z targeting in Zelda. And
that was introduced in the 64 versions of the game. Yeah,
the Nintendo 64 game. And basically, Navi acted as your cursor when targeting an enemy or an object, and that's who Navi is, and that's why she's important.
Okay, cool. So, sort of like, because I know when I saw, because I've seen like a bit of, you know, Zelda gameplay and stuff. I don't know if you played Spyro, but it reminds me a lot of like Sparks. I know, like, you know, like Spyro being a kiddyish, childish.
Yeah, game, the dragonfly.
The little dragonfly flying around, sort of the one that accompanies you and stuff. All right, next question.
Right, yeah, he kind of works like that. He's like your partner.
Yeah, sort of like the sidekick sort of thing, helps you out, gives you tips and stuff. Okay, so next question. What is your personal favorite Zelda game and why?
Oh my goodness.
And I know that must be hard because there's goddamn 17 of them.
It's not hard. I know my favorite, but I was saving that for a future video. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, I want to keep. I'll keep that under wraps.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. What is the Master Sword?
Oh, here we go. Yeah. All right, the Master Sword. Actually, we were talking about this earlier. So the Master Sword is basically the blade of evil's bane. Evil cannot touch this sword. Period. This sword is imbued with the holy light of the goddesses that has the ability to eradicate not only evil, but demons and any form of malevolent intent. The Master Sword has the power to eliminate or repel any forms of evil, magic, anything that has malevolent intent. The Master Sword has the power to repel or destroy it. Now, the Master Sword was created originally by the goddess Hylian way before Skyward Sword, and that was the whole big deal of the game Skyward Sword, was to create the Master Sword. The Master Sword was originally created as the Goddess Sword by the goddess Hylian. Now, in the game of Skyward Sword, at one point in the game, the sword is not powerful enough to stand up against the demons or to activate a certain item in order for you to get past a certain part of the game. So Link had to go on a quest to find 3 sacred flames of the goddesses Din, Nehru, and Feor. These flames helped imbue the Goddess Sword with power, wisdom, and courage, which then transformed it into the Master Sword. And at one point in the game, the sword then receives yet another blessing from the goddess Hylian. Kind of spoilers there, but I'm not gonna spoil that part for you. It gets the blessing from the goddess Hylian and then becomes the true Master Sword, which has the power to eradicate all forms of evil and malicious intent. The Master Sword, even though it's in some games there are some swords that are more powerful than the Master Sword in terms of attack damage, but the Master Sword is the only weapon capable of defeating certain enemies such as Ganon. The Master Sword at this point has only been wielded by Link and his other incarnations, and in Skyward Sword it is revealed that only Link may wield it because his spirit is forever bound to the spirit within the sword and the spirit of the sword and the sword itself. Now, the sword has many other uses. It can act as a purge. Like, there's this one point in Twilight Princess where Link transforms into a wolf because he's purged with dark magic, and he goes to the Master Sword in order to purge himself of that dark magic to become a human again. And the Master Sword also acts as a key to seal dark magic away from certain people or certain things. The Master Sword has acted as a key to seal Demise, the Demon King. It was used to seal away Ganondorf and Ganon's power, and it was used to seal off the door a door of time that leads into the Sacred Realm, where the omnipotent Triforce resides. So it has many uses, but the Master Sword is often regarded in many eyes of the gamers as one of the most important and one of the most powerful weapons in gaming history, period.
Yeah, I mean, you've just convinced me, like, right now that this thing is, like, 1,000,000 times more powerful than a Keyblade. Holy crap.
Yeah.
It's like 1,001 uses.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh, yeah. It has a lot of uses.
Alright, and my very last question is, for someone who is new to the Zelda franchise, what game would you recommend to them so that they could get into the series and learn furthermore about it?
Okay, I will recommend a number of games because the Zelda series has a multiple staple gameplay types, but the most two important types are the 3D Zelda and the 2D Zelda. Now, the 3D Zelda is basically what you see from Ocarina of Time, Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess, all that good jazz, and that's the 3D Zelda. Now, for that, if you want to get into the 3D aspect of Zelda, I would recommend The Legend of Zelda The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D for the 3DS. That is the optimal experience, in my opinion. It has everything you need to know, because all other 3D games after that game kind of like borrowed elements from that. So when you play that game, you're gonna have the basis of both the gameplay style and the rich Zelda lore that each game can offer you. So Ocarina of Time 3D, that's what I recommend for the 3D Zelda. Now for the 2D perspective Zelda, which is basically the top-down view where it's very 2D, you control Link in a very different way. I would recommend two different games. I would recommend either The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, which was for the Super Nintendo. You can get that very easily by either through emulators or get it on the Wii U shop or the Wii shop or whatever, or just get it for the Game Boy Advance. It's been ported up.
I'm pretty sure you can get it on the 3DS.
You can get it on the 3DS eShop as well. So I recommend The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, because that game was many people regard it as the best top-down Zelda ever created. and one of the best games ever created at the time. It was way ahead of its time on the Super Nintendo. And I would either recommend that or the more recent game, The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds, which acts as a spiritual successor / sequel to that game. And it basically takes many conventions of Zelda and breaks them apart. But it's a very good way of giving fresh air to Zelda. In that sense, I would recommend A Link to the Past before A Link Between Worlds, but I would recommend those two games when it comes to the perspective of Zelda.
Yeah.
Now, and for every game, honestly, all the Zelda games, in my opinion, there is no bad Zelda game. Because, each Zelda game is different, unique, and it borrows a lot from its predecessor. Now, for a series like Kingdom Hearts or Final Fantasies, you can pinpoint where that series had a bad day. Like, aka Kingdom Hearts Recoded or Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah.
In my opinion, Zelda had no bad days, period. But at the same time, it's all a matter of opinion, it's all a matter of taste, and I do recommend Ocarina of Time 3D and Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past as the first games you would play, or anyone would play if they plan on getting on the Legend of Zelda series.
Yeah, most definitely, because I have seen the fact, I've seen Ocarina of Time and stuff in the shop, and I've sort of gone past, and I'm like, I'm not into Zelda. Am I gonna get my money's worth? And honestly, just from hearing stuff from you, watching your videos, I know that it'd probably definitely be worth it. And with Majora's Mask coming out next year, because I know I watched your hype video about it and stuff. With that game coming out next year, I'd definitely be interested in picking up Ocarina of Time sometime this year. Play through that, and then consider getting Majora's Mask for the 3DS next year. Because honestly, Zelda is a game which is absolutely rich of lore, probably and extremely furthermore than Kingdom Hearts, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I like Kingdom Hearts. All the interesting plot points and stuff, and all the lore about that game is what gets me so interested. And honestly, Zelda is something that has been going on for years in gaming, and I just love to study and learn more about it. But yeah, I want to thank you for answering these questions, and it's great to be here today. I know it's been a while since me and you have done a collaboration, but whenever we do, it's always a good time. So thank you so much for having me on your channel today, dude.
Yeah, no problem, man. I just have one last question for you. So, did I bring you to the Zelda side?
I think you did. Honestly, I am pretty dang convinced to pick up Ocarina of Time for my 3DS, and even A Link to the Past or A Link Between Worlds, because I know A Link Between Worlds is on the 3DS as well. I need more games for my 3DS, so now I have reason to buy more games. So I would say you've done a 10 out of 10 job, dude.
It's very cool, very cool. And once again, thank you so much, Cynical from the Gamersjoint, for being on my channel and asking me these questions. And this, yeah, like you said, man, this collaboration has been a very good time. And I'd like to thank everyone who was watching this video, me, HMK, and Cynical, the Gamersjoint, all that good jazz. And I want to get you guys hyped up for episode 2. And if you guys have a YouTuber in mind that you want to see on this series of What Is Zelda, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, or whatever, if you have a specific YouTuber, shoot me a message or whatever, and I will bother the hell out of them to see if they're willing to get on my channel and put their money where their mouth is. So, until next time, thank you so much for joining us. I've been HMK.
And I've been Cynical, guys.
And until the next Zelda video, we will check you guys later.
Peace.